Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the very anticipated new episode for our mini series on how to make all of the cool stuff that the server Origin Realms has. We're starting, well, not really starting, continuing a mini series on custom mobs. Today's episode is going to be about MythicMobs, a very cool plugin that is going to allow us to create all sorts of AIs and different mobs, bosses, and others that will do all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, let's just get right onto it. We're gonna just have to install the plugin MythicMobs. I'm not gonna show you how to do that because you just have to drop it into the plugins folder, start your server, and it will generate this nice little folder. So we go into this folder, we would go into the mobs folder, and I've already created this file called isology.yml. The YML is very important, and yeah, you can just create any sort of file and just name it whatever .yml, and make sure you do accept to change it, and yeah, you can just use that. So I'm gonna open this one, and I am going to just kind of go through this as a template because I do think it's a lot easier as opposed to just writing it all down. So I will leave this file down in the description, and you can just copy it and change every little thing to just make your own mobs. I really do think it's a lot easier this way as opposed to having to write it all. And as always, I really do recommend to look at the MythicMobs wiki that describes every single one of these areas and scales and everything. It is very well done, and yeah, thanks to the devs for that. But I'm just gonna dive into it. Here, very important, you need to put the name, the internal name of what the mob is. It's not going to be the name that it has like on top of it, so don't worry about that, but it is the internal name, and it has to be in camel case, which means that you have to put an uppercase, then whatever it is, and then if you want to put like a different word, instead of putting a space and then the word, you don't put the space, but you do put the uppercase. So if we wanted to make a human dog for some reason, we would write it like this, and then the colon. Very important. Yeah, and then with a little tab, we just put the type. The type is very important, but to us, it's not important what it looks like, it's important what it acts like. The AI of the mob. So in this case, a zombie would just kind of go after you and just hit you. But if we used, for example, a skeleton, maybe we could have a ranged mob that shoots you from afar or something like that. So that the type is most important for how the mob behaves as opposed to what it looks like, because we're going to change what it looks like. Then we're going to go quickly through all these because they're pretty easy. Display, just the name between these little colons, very important. The health, how much health it has, this is the same as the player. The kill message, if it's a hostile mob, just put whatever you want and put the target.name, which means the player. So this is going to say whatever your name is was frozen to death by an isologer. You can change all of this, just I'd say always leave this in so you know who's being killed by what. Then the damage, the base damage, this is just if you come into contact, so melee damage doesn't count with arrows and stuff like that, that's different. And then we're starting with drops. Drops is a pretty easy area of this, but it's very important as well. It just has 3 major points that you have to put. The first one is the item that you want to drop, so in this case it'd be just an ice block. Then you want the quantity, so if you just want like a set amount, you could just put like 5, that's always going to drop 5, or you can put a variable amount, that'd be like 1/123, for example. That means it can drop anywhere from 1 to 3, so 1, 2, 3, yeah, I mean, it's not a lot, but you get the point. And this right here is the probability of this whole thing. Oh, sorry, of this whole thing dropping. It goes from 0 to 1, so a 0.8 would be an 80% chance of this drop happening. And then after that, it decides whether it's gonna drop 1, 2, or 3. And the snowball, as we can see, we have 1 to 4 and a 100%. So that means it's always gonna drop. And lastly, we have an MMO items custom item. I'll show you this in a later episode, but this is just a cool way to drop custom items that then do cool things or whatever. So let's go into the options tab. I'm not going to spend very much time in here, as this you should really look in the wiki, because there's just not much that I can explain. But these are the ones that I always put in all my mobs, because I feel they are very important. Despawn, if it's a boss, we will cover that in a later video, but if it's a boss, just put it to false so that it doesn't disappear. Movement speed, you can make it faster here. Prevent other drops, this is very important if we're making a custom mob. For example, I don't want my Isology to drop the zombie drops, you know, raw flesh or whatever it drops. Combat distance is not bad, it's just how far you can hit the mob and it registrate. I always set it to 50 so that when you're further than 50 blocks, that mob is pretty much just not loaded, and so it takes down a little bit of the effort that your CPU has to do. And yeah, prevent jockey mounts so it doesn't spawn with a chicken. Transformation so it doesn't become into a drowned. Random equipment is so that it doesn't spawn with like a sword or something. You might want that, but usually I don't think you do. Sunburn, you might want it to burn or you might not want it to burn. So if you're using the AI of a mob such as a zombie, which does burn, you can just put this and it won't. And finally, reinforcement chance, just always set that to 0, because in hard mode, for some reason, zombies can like duplicate and do weird stuff called reinforcements, they're called. So yeah, just always set that to 0. Silent, pretty much always set that to 0. Well, to true, so that you can add your own custom sounds for the mob, as opposed to an Isologer making zombie sounds. Doesn't make very much sense. And invisibility, not necessary, because we're gonna be using model engine later. And that's it for the easy part, basically. Then we get into the skills. Skills is a pretty complicated topic. I might make more videos about it, but I just really do recommend to look at the wiki and just kind of spend your hours in there, because there's not a very good way to explain all of this in a single video, or at least not a 2-hour, without making a 2-hour video. Yeah, I can show you some of the skills that I have here and some of the things that you can do that are somewhat easy and I think are going to help you quite a lot. For example, I have this command that just grants an advancement when you kill it. This is a custom advancement that I made. I will show how to make advancements in a later video as well. But if you want to do something like that, this is a good way to make it. And then these two are probably the most useful skills, which is random skill and skill. These just call different skills in a different file that we're now going to take a look at. So let's go out of mobs and into the skills folder. I have my Isology here, and these are the skills that I have. Just like with the Isology, you have to give them a name, and this is the name that you will be calling them by. As you can see, wind attack is also wind attack here. And skills are nice because you can put, for example, conditions, so only when the player is within 25 blocks. And then you can do a lot of things just from one. So, for example, what I'm doing here is I am calling a random skill from these three to the target, which is just the player, on a timer of 100. This is ticks, so always divided by 20. and that's how many seconds. There would be 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds, it's just going to choose one of these 3, and it's going to do one of them. The wind attack, what it does, it's I'll show you this in the model engine tutorial because that just changed the animation. And it uses the skill throw, which just throws the player backwards, and it plays an evoker sound. Then the ice bolt is one of the most important, not ice bolt, the I think it's called bullet or something like that skill. Oh, projectile, sorry. One of the most important ones, because you can make some very, very cool projectiles, and they're very easy to make. You just call the projectile skill, and you have to call another 2 skills. So on tick would be ice bolt tick, and on hit, ice bolt hit. These skills are going to execute this one while the projectile is alive. So before it hits anything, this skill is going to continuously run. So you can do something like particles, for example, which is what I have here. And in hit, it's just what it's gonna do once it hits either a player or a block. In this case, I just have it do damage and give the potion of slowness for 5 seconds and a level of 2. And then in here, in the projectile, we come back to this. This is the speed, V for velocity, the speed at which it goes. And these other parameters I wouldn't change much because they're kind of a little complicated stuff, but yeah, just kind of leave them at that or look at the wiki, as I said. Yeah, those are very important. The model is something we'll be looking at in the next video, which is going to be about model engine. I do promise to explain that a little better than I'm doing this, because MythicMobs is just not very easy to explain. It has a lot of things that you can do with it, and I just really do recommend looking at the wiki. But model engine is quite a lot easier, and I'll certainly try to explain that as well as I can. And yeah, we also have just the sound. This is the sound that does when it's damaged, undamaged. And this is the sound that it makes from time to time. Just like the drops, skills have four things that you have to put. So be the skill itself, which is all this, then who it's aiming at, can be either the target or itself. For example, this is the same entity, this would be the isologer. Then when you want it to do, so that'd be, for example, on death or on damaged or with a timer, stuff like that. And then lastly, you want to put the probability of this skill actually happening. If you don't put anything, it will always happen when this is triggered. But if you put something, for example, here I have 0.5, that means a 50%. It means every 160 ticks, which is 7 seconds, I think. Yep. No, 8 seconds, sorry. So every 8 seconds, it has a 50% chance of doing this sound. It might do it or it might not. It's not an 100% chance. And this one I also do always recommend, which is just a particle for when it dies. If you don't do this, the mob is just going to die without particles, which is going to look pretty weird because all Minecraft mobs die with particles. And yeah, I mean, let's just see how it looks in game. Alright, so we're back in the game, and we're just gonna always do, after you edit something, we're always gonna do which stands for MythicMobs reload. Always reload it. It's nice to have that. And then when you want to get a mob, very easy, you just do either spawn. Wait, no, it's not spawn. Sorry. Here, mobs spawn, and you can just spawn something, or as I like to do it, which is just a lot more practical, egg get, and then whatever you want to spawn. In this case, it would be the isologer. I'm gonna get 64 of those. It just gives you an egg, then you can just place it, and yep, here we have our little isolager. Right now it doesn't have the skin of the model that we did last time, but that's what we're gonna be doing next time. So don't really worry about it. For now, we can just see that, for example, it's not burning, and we can try some of its effects. So every some seconds, we should. Ooh, there we go. See, for example, it just pushed me quite a lot. Yep. Okay, I get it. I get it. Chill out. And if we can maybe just, oh wow, get it to shoot its little beam. There we go. See, that's one of the projectiles that I can shoot. And those are the particle rockets. And if it gets me, come on, come on. Wow. It's gonna slow me down and do a little bit of damage for sure. It is not really. There we go. So now I have slowness, and I also got hit pretty badly. I might just die. Wow. Yeah, so we can see that those skills are working, and yeah, it's all. And yeah, guys, I'm kind of sorry, but that is all we have time for today. Um, unfortunately, I don't think I could explain this very well, but MythicMobs is a very big plugin with a lot of things that you can do in it. I'll try to make separate tutorials for every little thing, kind of. But yeah, for now, that's kind of it. And make sure you stick around to check out the next videos about Model Engine, items adder, which also helps us bring mobs to life. And I will also be making a tutorial on how to add these 3D models into Bedrock Edition and Java Edition with mods using the help of MC Creator and GeckoLab. So yeah, we'll see you next time, and I hope you learned something. Bye!